everyone. In this video we'll see how to model a structure. So this is the drawing, the CAD file that I just opened, and as you can see here that each corner has a 12 by 12 inches column. So each corner, apart from that, if I look at these grids, almost every intersection has a column. The only thing is these two columns which will appear on the intersection, we'll have to move them on this side, and there's this column which has to move on at this column. And then we have beams that are running all along the periphery plus along the longitudinal dimension. So let's go to our Revit menu and let's create a new. This time we'll create a project using a structural template. Click OK. So it has opened the structural template. Let's go ahead and insert and link our original architecture model example file. Make sure it's auto origin to origin. Click open and it has opened the project. Let's move our elevational markers to the right place, so that right here. Let's go to an elevational view. Let's click on the model. Let's spin it. Okay, once it is spinned, let's go to collaborate and let's go to copy monitor, select link. What we need to copy the levels and the grids. So click on copy, multiple, select everything, filter out everything but levels and the grids. So click OK, let's finish. Let's go to copy monitor and finish again. So those levels are copied. Let's go to other elevation, west side. So we copied grid 1 through 5. Let's copy grids A, B, C, D. Copy monitor, select link. Select this link. When it highlights, copy, multiple. Let's select everything. Filter out everything but grids. We already copied levels, so we don't have to worry about them. Click OK, save finish, and let's finish again. So once that is done, let's organize our project browser. So right now these levels are by default. We don't want to use them. So let's create some structural plans. So click on view, plan view, and go to structural plan. Let's select first floor. That's what we want. Let's select roof and second floor. Let's also select top of footing because it's a structural project. So we are concerned with even top of the footing. Click OK. And now those structural plans have been created. Let's go ahead and delete the old ones. We don't need them. All we need is first floor, second floor, roof, and top of footing. So let's go to our first floor plan. So let's go ahead and insert columns first. So click on structure, go on to column. We know that we don't need steel column. What we need is a concrete column. So let's click on one of the column. Let's choose 12 by 18. And we know that we don't need a rectangular column. We need a square column, which is 12 by 12 inches. So click on edit type, duplicate it, and let's make it 12 by 12. Click OK. Let's also change its height. So it's 1 by 1. Click OK. So now we have two options. Either we can go and start putting columns by location, or we can use this option, add grids. So let's use this option. Let's click on add grids. So click here, and now what you can do is you can select a grid. So select the first grid and then press Ctrl and select all other grids, okay, on one side. So you know that we have selected these grids, but when I select this grid, it's gonna take these intersections and it's automatically gonna insert columns. So if I click here, you see that it's inserted those columns. So if I click here, it will insert all the columns at the intersections. So if you have a huge project which has so many columns, you can actually use this option to insert your columns at the intersection of these grids. Once it is done, click on finish and it has created those columns. So click on modify, and now we don't really need this column, right? So delete this. We don't really need this column. Delete it. And if you remember from our model that we don't need this column here. So what we need is click on this column, Control, and select this column, and let's move it from here to here. So if you remember in our CAD file, those two columns were not here. Now we also need to move this column actually somewhere here, because if you see that there's a 45 degrees angle and we need that column here. Now we don't know where exactly that line is. So one good way is to go back and change our architectural model, and let's insert a grid there, because it's the architect who will be guiding us where exactly he wants that column. So let's go back to our architecture model. So let me save this model close it. And let me open that architecture model again. Okay, so let's insert two grids. So what we want is, right now those columns are here, but we actually want this column to come to this column, okay? And then this column, which is showing up here, should be here, okay? So let's create a grid here, okay? Let's click on grid, and let me take this point right here, and let's create a grid E here. And let me take this point, and let me create a grid F, and then I can go back and change it to 5, save it, close it, and let's open our structural project that we are working on, this one. So when it opens, you see that grid here? We don't really have those grids here, and we don't really have to copy them. Why? Because we can use them as a reference. So let's use them as a reference rather than copying in the model. So let's click on this column and move it. So from here, we want to move it to this point. Similarly, we want this column here to here. So what you want to do is you want to match, the columns with the grid that is coming from architecture model. So now everything looks fine. So we are in first floor view. So let's click on one. Let's select all instances visible in the view. Copy all of them to clipboard and paste, align to second floor and also top of the footing. So that's what we want. Click OK. And if you go in your 3D view, those columns have been pasted. Now we'll have to go into the top of the view and this top of the footing view and change its top to the first floor. Okay, so let's go to this, select on one, click on one column, select all instances visible in this view. And you see here the top level is first floor but it has an offset of 1 foot 6 inches. So make this offset 0. And if I go back to the 3D view, I see that they're coming and they're not overlapping with the upper level column. Alright, we also don't need this column actually. So at the corner, we don't need this column. So in our CAD file, we have columns at the diagonal, but not at the corner. So once that is done, let's go back and check them. If everything looks fine here, let's go ahead and insert footings. So for that, we need to go to top of footing. Okay, here, let's go back to structure. Click on isolated footing. So right now it's 6 feet by 4 feet and the depth is 1 foot 6 inches. So let's click on edit type. Let's duplicate and let's make it 4 feet by 4 feet. So 48 inches by 48 inches and let's give it a depth of 12 inches. Click OK. Let's change the size. So depth should be 1 foot, 4 feet width. Length should be 4 feet and click OK. Just like column, I can prefer to say add column and I can just select the column, but I can also use add grid option. So if you have a huge project, I would always recommend using this add grids option. So let's select a grid and then control and select all these grids. This grid is not a part of, if you remember, we haven't copied and we are not copying and monitoring this grid, so we cannot select them, but that's okay. Click on finish. So we have those foundations or this footings copied. Let's delete the extra one that we don't need and let's move these to this column. So click on this, control, click this one and move them from here to here. Let's also move this, or we can always delete them and we also don't need this column. And we can always go back to footing, isolated, and say add column. So we want to put on this column, control this column, okay, and say finish. So we can use both the options. Either we can choose to have them put at the grid intersection, or we can go and individually select those columns to put these footings. So let's go to 3D view and you see that the footing has been put in place. And footing will automatically go to the top of the footing level. Okay, just it will go and attach to the bottom of the column. Once that is done, let's go back to our hidden line view and let's start inserting beams. So click on beam. We don't want steel beams, so let's select a concrete beam and let's stick to 12 by 24. Okay, if you want, you can change its type, but to save time, I'm not explaining you that here. You know very well how to do that. But before you start putting them here, make sure that this 3D snapping is checked. Okay, so that you can snap in 3D. So we know that there is a beam here all along. Okay, so let's first create that. So let's click on here and let's click on here. Okay, And then we can always from here to here. Let's put these beams first. And we can also always change the size of these beams later on by selecting one by one or together. So what we did, we just completed these beams at the periphery of the building. Now we know that we had beams along the longitudinal direction. So let's do that. And just to show you the CAD file, so if you see here, and if let me just extend this. So we have the beams going this way, right? And then we need two beams going this way, okay? But let's finish the remaining beams. So let's put a beam from here to here. And then we need two beams, one from here to this perpendicular, one from here to here. Okay, and I think we need to change, or let's delete this part also. Let's go to the roof plan view and let's put these beams. So let's go to beam. Okay, make sure the reference level is roof, and let's put this beam 12 by 24 from here to here, and then escape, and then we're going to draw here to somewhere here. Okay, once that is done, let's go back to our 3D view. Then we know that all the beams have been drawn. So let's go back to roof level. All we need to do is click on one, select all instances visible in the view, copy to clipboard and paste, align to selected levels. We want it to go to second floor and first floor. Click OK. And if you go in 3D view, those have been copied. So there will be a plinth beam at the first floor level, second floor level beams, and then the roof level beams, and there will be a roof on top of that. You can see it in shaded. So that's the structure that you as a structural engineer will include in the model, and the architect will approve it. And if the architect needs any change, will inform you and you'll make those changes. Thanks for watching.